Yeah, I have, thank you very much. His name is Sigmundo David Gunnlaugsson.
No, don't give it away before.
I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but we're talking about the Prime Minister of Iceland at the top of our news review because he has stepped down. The Independent reports this, most of the other international media has as well, and it's specifically because of allegations that have emerged in the Panama Papers that Mr. Gunnlaugsson and his wife used an offshore account to keep millions of dollars worth of assets.
Indeed. The Japan Times takes a look at how Russian and Chinese state media did or did not cover revelations emanating from the Panama Papers. Beijing's online censors actively thwarted the word Panama being searched for, while Russia's state television initially just didn't report the story at all. It didn't happen.
Presidential candidates Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders, the two big victories in the Wisconsin state primaries. Such a result, according to the Wall Street Journal, makes Donald Trump's path towards winning the Republican nomination that bit more difficult.
The FT leads with plans by the White House to crack down on inversion deals, which companies use to move to low-tax jurisdictions. The move has provoked anger from foreign multinationals who operate in the United States.
The Times business section has a photo of 5 former Barclays employees accused of conspiring to defraud by fixing the LIBOR interest rate, the interbank rate. The prosecution alleged they were driven by money to make more profit on their trading. The 5 defendants deny 1 count of conspiracy to defraud.
Oh, what do I get this one? This is more up your alley, isn't it? It is Paris Saint-Germain versus Manchester City, or really Qatar versus the United Arab Emirates in the quarter-final of the European Champions League. Middle Eastern club owners like the UAE's Sheikh Mansour and Qatari Nasser Al Khalifi increasingly dominate the cream of international footy.
Because they have the money. Cornelia Meyer is here,
CEO
of MRL Corporation, a business consultancy. Good morning, Cornelia.
Morning, Cornelia.
Good morning.
It was literally, I think, a few minutes after he said, I'm not going to be stepping down, that Mr. Gunnlaugsson said, I'm stepping down.
Well, you know, what do you do when half of your population stands outside of your house, of your front door, and says, we want you to step down? I mean, people have spoken. This whole Panama thing is becoming quickly the WikiLeaks of high finance.
It really is. But again, we have to stress every time we talk about the story, there's not necessarily anything illegal in these people keeping this money in Panama.
There's nothing illegal. But I think what we see is the same thing we saw with Corbyn coming to power, coming to run the Labour Party here, with Trump and with especially Sanders in the US. The people who are not that affluent are getting fed up with the people who are affluent and who hold all the power, and that cliff, that disparity between the haves and the have not so much is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and people who, you know, have to make an honest living as a nurse, as a teacher, who don't earn much but have to pay the taxes, are getting angry with people who earn so much and don't have to pay the taxes.
And that is a valid point, because that disparity certainly grew even more during the financial crisis and the post years, right? I mean, grew by big chunks. Sorry, do you think public around the world are in some ways rejoicing, because some will say nothing better to see a fat cat fall?
Yeah, but that's, you know, that sort of schadenfreude is not a very nice sentiment. But we do have to address the disparity of income and sort of fairness, because we see the US elections are a sign of it. What happened in the Labour Party here is a sign of it. The people who feel that they're not part of the elite and never can become part of the elite. That was all America was all about. You can make it there. Anybody can make it. And a lot of people think, no, that's no longer the case. So the deal that we sort of had, being a US citizen, is no longer the deal we have now. And I think that those are things that will need to get addressed.
There was a BBC correspondent on BBC Radio yesterday. I won't tell you which country you were speaking from. He said most people in this country accept that its politicians are corrupt. Okay? Some people are saying that the Panama Papers are showing, we know that rich people keep their money in places.
That's fine, but for a lot of the OECD countries, we really do believe in governance, right? If you're a member of the OECD, we do believe in governance, don't we?
Yeah, we do indeed. Let's talk about the Japanese Times. This is, and it's the same story, the Panama Papers, but it's interesting looking at the Chinese and the Russian, how they reported or didn't report. And all I'm thinking is, if you're a Chinese kid somewhere and your assignment was the Panama Canal, good luck in researching, because the word Panama blocked, right?
Well, maybe you should go back to the library and go back to books. But you can understand. I sort of can see that, this the brother-in-law of the premier of the president has been sort of mentioned, and the president is trying to crack down on corruption. Although this is probably not corrupt, for the sense of propriety, it's probably not the best thing. So this is what happens.
No.
We've talked so much about Donald Trump over the past few months. So let's talk about Ted Cruz, because he has won in Wisconsin. And he's far, far more to the right than Donald Trump. And both men are particularly unpopular with the people who run the Republican Party in the US.
But I think what people will... the question is, where will the Republican establishment come down on? Will they, in the end, try and sort of back Cruz? Because at least Cruz is not a... he's consistent in his message. He's less of a wild card than Trump, and he has a wife who is a Goldman Sachs partner. So he's sort of a little bit closer to that establishment, even though he attacks it.
Yes, and Bernie Sanders winning again against Hillary Clinton.
Have you happened to see the Ted Cruz commercials? The campaign commercials with the guns and.
All right.
Oh, God.
Hunting. I know it's an American thing, and you love it over there, but it's all a bit weird for us. It's all a bit weird.
He's a Texan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mind you, I hunt, I shoot, and I stalk. I don't mind guns.
You hunt, shoot, and stalk.
Ted Cruz.
Great to hear, Cornelia. We really love having you on, by the way. I'll give you Adnan's address later on. Let's talk about the foreign groups who are furious. The White House crackdown on let's say a version. Let's explain that to the uninitiated. It's buying a company merely for the sake of, because that company's in a lower tax.
It's not merely for sake. It's a company that's a valid proposition, but it also happens to be in a lower tax, which is good for tax. And the White House is cracking down. There were several of these deals. Pfizer went out. This one is the Pfizer Allegra deal. Pfizer already tried to do it with AstraZeneca, which didn't work. The Aris Group bought Pace. AbbVie bought Shire and reverse merged. These things were not uncommon. Now, you can understand why they crack down, because they say their treasury is not getting the tax money on one hand, but it's now going so far that it will seriously affect foreign companies operating there, companies like Shell, like Nestle. So they are starting to say, look, if we invest in the US and if we have operations there, and we are originally from other jurisdictions, we should not be put in the same pot here.
Okay, if you don't mind, we're going to go skirt past the Barclays case. Those 5 men say that they didn't do anything wrong in the charges that they face. So we'll go on to this PSG versus, who are they playing? Manchester City in the European Champions League. One club is owned by a ruling member of the UAE from the royal family there, the other by a Qatari businessman. This is sport, culture, finance, it's everything.
It's sport, culture, finance, but football clubs have always been owned by people who had, and it's good for those clubs to have people who have the money own them, because they can invest in them. Look, there was the heyday of the Russian oligarchs buying football clubs. There were very wealthy American businessmen. Manchester City was owned by very wealthy American businessmen before the UAE ownership. So that's just the business of football. It needs money, so it needs wealthy investors.
Great.
She talks, she scores.
Sarah Palin.
Cornelia.
No, sorry, no, it's actually no. Sarah, I'm thinking hunting, shooting and stalking. Hunting, shooting and stalking.
Cornelia, thank you very much.
Thanks, Cornelia.